quick overview on the AI concepts, then moving to the AI at the edge, and certainly we'll look into the opportunities and application market segments which are emerging today. Then also to see that how these AI application can be fitted inside the general and microcontrollers when we are talking on the edge side, as well as some simplified tools which can be used for that purpose. I would also like to give you some concepts of the some solution demonstrations so that that will also enable you to think about more and more application in your areas. So just to take it up, ST is into one of the semiconductors domain. We have the revenue around $10 billion last year. This is also quite intensive R&D setup along with the other employees and spread over the global presence. ST also has 11 manufacturing sites overall in the globe. And if you see the presence of the globe, ST is present as an R&D setup, as a sales and marketing, front end, and the back end manufacturers across almost all the areas of the globe. Where ST is can be found, so whether we talk about the driving, which can be safer, greener, or even the more connected, we enable the industries, evolution on the industries we see today, so which can further be made smarter, safer, and more efficient. Homes and cities around us, so how we can make it better living, get higher security, and also the get more of the available resources from it. And finally, also you see everyday things which we see around us, which can be made more smarter, more connected, and also be aware of their surroundings. So what ST is doing as objective in four areas. So in automotive, ST is working on the objectives of EV electrification. So how automotive, which is the new emerging market. Also the digitalization, like we are talking about the autonomous driving. On the industrial segment, one of the leader in the embedded processing. Along with, we also have analog and sensors. They also, ST is also into the power and energy management and accelerating other industrial areas. And personal electronics, we are working with some very key smartphone players, which are the higher application with a lot of differentiated products inside that, and also leveraging more than mobile on accessories as well. On the PC side, which is CP side, which is computers equipment, computers and peripherals. Again, we are working on a lot of application and also addressing cellular and satellite communication. So this is just one, and let me now take it to the artificial intelligence. I take pardon from some of the experts, which certainly would be working on this area, but this is just a very basic overview and just starting with the, some basic terms which will be useful in the artificial intelligence domain. So AI are mixed of the three elements. So we can say they are nested with each other. So when we talk about AI, we talk about machine learning, and we talk about the deep learning. So the top level thing, which is we call artificial intelligence, it's like really imitating the human intelligence by the machines. So that's what we say artificial intelligence. So it's a science, it's engineering to really make sure that how we can enable our machines to be more and more intelligent. On machine learning is part of AI. So this is again, this branch is the field of computer science and engineering, and try to see that how computers can learn without being explicitly programmed. That is how we are today doing it, and how it can really learn itself and make it work independent. And finally, the deep learning, which is again part of the subset of the machine learning, and this works based on the artificial neural networks like our brain works. So ANN is nothing but kind of small processing units or the storage capabilities which are like inside our brains. So it works in the same way. So artificial intelligence, if we talk about artificial intelligence, is not really new subject if we talked about today. This idea has been evolved quite a long time, over 50 years in fact. So if you see some of the milestones in 1945, Mr. Turing had mentioned this, that this is possibility that one day the machines can do some examples or like play the chess like the intelligent human beings do it. So this is followed by a lot of invention which kept on happening on the artificial intelligence. And then on 1997, you will see that IBM had launched the one system which was called Deep Blue system, and this was one of the chess playing game. And if you would have seen that time news, that this equipment was able to beat Gary Kasparov, and this really was a big limelight that time. Of course, then again had been a lot of development. You name it. You have Siri, which was launched in 2010. We had Alexa also launched in that duration after some time. And then there was one more quite talked about game, which was launched by the Google. And in 2016, you will see Google AlphaGo, which was launched. And this was again in limelight, and this game became very popular because that again beated 18 times world champion Lee Sedol in this game of Go Champion. And this really again was one of the fantastic example of the AI. So AI is ready to scale today. So we can say yes, AI can be taken up to the next level. Thanks to some of the things which are happening, which are the investment which is happening by the companies like who are providing GPUs, who are providing MPUs, MCUs. So these are the companies, including ST, which has been working very heavily on enabling those ready-to-use platforms. And then easy accessibility of cloud has further accelerated this AI. The programming platform, that again is there has been a lot of work on the open platforms which has been working around, and the algorithms which are getting developed like deep learning methods to make sure that this AI is taking shape properly. We have a lot of data sets available, and that is another very powerful tool for the AI to develop. And of course, followed by the applications which are today, even on the driving side, you have seen automotive industries is working on the autonomous driving, which is going to shape up. And same way, many more industries are working on this AI to enable them and make sure that these use cases are enabled day by day. So AI is, as we said, this is superset of the studies which is mimicked by human, like for reasoning and mental activities. And of course, this can be used today in the everyday's life. Just to connect some examples: face voice recognition, autonomous driving, stock market trading strategies, even the disease symptoms detection, predictive maintenance, one of the emerging field we see, and accordingly, a lot of more fields around us which we see where AI is getting used and being heard by us in all the different regions. So before I put, and as being masterclass, so it's always good to have some checks and understand from our audience that what they feel and they find some of the things quite interesting in this domain. So let me just put a small question to you. It is just to understand the AI things which is happening around us. And let me put one poll question to understand. Can I put a poll question? So this is to understand from you that, of course, as I said, 50 years has been the time when AI has been around. We have seen the growth. We are finding that this is going more and more. So I would like to understand from you that I'm just putting three factors which has been around us, whether it's the digital data, uh, whether it's availability of mobiles, which has been there, and also the enabling high-speed internet. So these has been three real things which actually has made our life more. So I would like to understand from you one of the reason, the key reason which you feel is important, which has really taken the AI to the next level in the recent years.
Attendees, we'll give 10 seconds more and then we will close this poll. All right. I'm ending the polls, and Vinay, we'll share the results on your screen. Two major factors that accelerated AI in the recent years: 77% of the attendees cast votes for abundance of digital data, 3% availability of mobiles, and 21% for high speed internet. Thank you so much, attendees, for your casting votes. Please, over to you, Vinay, again.
Thank you very much. So I really see and I applaud, put a big applaud to the audience because this has fantastic answer. And certainly abundance of the digital data has been one of the major evolution on the AI, which has reshaped and we see so much progress in the AI in the recent years. So thank you very much. Let me minimize the screen. Okay, so as we were talking about, let's talk about the second element inside the AI, which has been the machine learning. So machine learning is as it is the part of the subsystem of the AI, and this is again a quite big field of the computer science, which is ability to learn itself without really we are going to explicitly program it. So why actually we need the machine learning? What is the difference which has been there from the one which is today available programming versus this one? Let's take one example of the 3D recognition. In the 3D recognition, we will find that the important is that of course our brain is trained that we are able to see any picture, any direction of the picture, illumination conditions, or the variations on our different scales, even the deformation, if this is some object is deformed. So our brain is able to calculate that what this object is all about. Even the backgrounds, even is too much cluttered, but we are able to find the shape which is available there. But how do we tell this all thing to our computers? So that has been one of the area. If we start putting up programs for these complex things, this is absolutely going to be very complex for the programming to be done on subject. Similar is one more example when we can say that we have different practices of handwriting. I do a different way of handwriting. You will do in the different way of the handwriting, and you see the different the ways the letters can be written. So how do we recognize that the number 2 digit which I have put in the slate versus what you have put in the slate? How to tell computer that this is the same letter what both the humans are inputting it. So these are some examples, and that is leading to the answer that yes, these kind of specific tasks which can be done more efficiently rather than putting a program, and that's where we have seen the evolution of the machine learning programs. So what we do, we are collecting a lot of set of examples which we call them label set, and that's what the answer was, that we have now a lot of abundance of those digital data which can be put on the machine learning, and this has been like labeling those versus the reality. And of course these machine learning then uses those data sets to create a program which can do the job efficiently. So certainly one of the evolution for this has been the abundance of the amount of data, and one more evolution which has been around has been the massive computation capabilities of the machines. So that was again another evolution which is paving the way for the AI. So third element of the AI is the deep learning. Again, this is part of the machine learning, and which is subset of the machine learning algorithm. And that, as I said, this is based on the ANN, artificial neural network. So one of the example you can see here, we are training a machine to know that okay, this is a picture. We show a picture of a cat, and then there are the neural network which is interpreting, taking the input from this layer, and then interpreting that this is the object is a picture is of the cat. So there has been a lot of ANN networks. There are a lot of studies, and one of the model which is called convolutional neural network, CNN. This is quite efficient for when we are talking about the classifications. So you can see CNN is able to accurately and efficiently do over the traditional way of the programming, like in case of recognition, in case of identification, in case of the classification task. So in the table below, you can see there has been a lot of object classifications, scene classification, even the detection of the objects, And you see through different set of the data sets which are available and they are put across. If we do without CNN and we do with CNN, we actually see a huge difference on the prediction of those algorithms. So it means that if we put a chart on the performance and amount of data, you'll see that deep learning is actually one of the methods which is outperforming the older techniques of the available data and available techniques. So just one slide more on this AI basics. So neural networks, as we talked about one term, neural networks, for the people who already are working on this, you would know it. But if somebody is now going to be working on the AI field, so the neural network is can be defined as it's kind of a biological way of understanding the neurons and how many neurons are per layer. And then there are a lot of layers of such neurons, and that is called deep neural networks. So you can correlate it with the biological neuron. So like we have the neuron which has got different part of our biological part of the neurons, and this is depicted in the same way what this deep neural network works like. So you can see there are one layer is called input layer, then there are a lot of hidden layers, and then we have output layer. What we generally precisely do here is that on the input layer is what you are putting some and of course let me tell you that this hidden layers which are put here interconnected with lot of different layers, and this is where also it does lot of computation and mathematical models are applied. So as in the examples of the cat we have seen, we actually put the inputs are nothing but the features. Just to imagine, you want to understand my age and my life expectancy of any human. So how we do it? We need some the characters features of the person. It's male, the city, the area which is living in, what kind of he has the age. So based on these features, you are putting the inputs, and then these other layers are computing it. Of course, that also is important in the features, that what is the important out of these features which you have put in the input layer, which is having the more weight on my life expectancy. If age is the more weight, or my gender is the more. So based on these different feature sets, you will be also putting the weights on those features. And based on this computation of the weights and internal processing, these layers define an output, and then these output layers are able to predict what exactly is that object. So of course, these computation, what is done through this neural network, we call them training. We call them how you are learning the model, and you don't have to do it all the time. It is done once, and of course that is being done because this needs a lot of computation power, and it is generally done on the big servers or at the cloud level. So that is how these models are trained. Okay, so let me put now quick words further that how AI and now you see also the IoT, which together are getting shape in today's world, and how they are interconnected. So in recent times, you have seen some studies which you would also have heard about. IoT has one of the evolution happened in the recent years. We expect billions devices which are going to be connected on this our entire world. And this means that these devices not only getting installed, but they also are uh, producing a lot of excessive data. The data could be structured data. Data means the defined data which which can be stored in files. We can put the semantics, and we can actually put for the programming, and also the unstructured data, which is in our natural languages, could be a lot of mails, images, a lot of videos which we keep on uploading from these devices which are going to the cloud. So so of course, unstructured data is not what immediately can be consumed by the programs which are available today. So this structured and non-structured, unstructured data, this is being produced huge by the world in the IoT system. So you can see some of the studies. A PC generates huge data per day. Even the autonomous cars, which are going to produce huge terabytes of the data per day, and even the connector planes will be putting a lot of data to the cloud. What this is going to have is the some of the features. One of the thing is the bandwidth. So of course, it needs a lot of huge bandwidth. That also means that you might have some of the latencies in the processing, and also it's important to see that how our world is today connected. So even if we talk about the limitation, some of the studies say that over just 70% is connected on the even 3G, 4G, and we are talking about the 5G, which is the next evolution. But then availability is one more constraint which is today available to take it to the next level. So you can see roughly this data on the backside. We see that roughly how much is the data which is being put by generated from the different sources. And if you see zettabyte is the multiple of so many trillions of the gigabytes which are getting put on the centers on the cloud. So it means that what I talked about, some of the challenges which cloud AI on the cloud centralized, that's what we generally call centralized AI architecture. So on this centralized architecture, we have the limitation of high bandwidth. We need a lot of processing power on the central side, and also there is potential way of having a bit more high latency. So that is what is paving a way for the other architecture where we are talking about a distributed the way this AI can be done. And this distributed AI could help to offload some of the constraints which could be there on the centralized AI, like reducing the bandwidth, uh, lowering a bit of the centralized computing power, and also making the real-time user experience possible. So if you see on the my last slide, when talking about AI on the edge, I mean it's the IoT, one of the devices which are going to be connected. So when actually we started talking about the IoT devices, the ambition was that you connect those devices and let the data be computed at the cloud, and that was certainly one of the key objectives. Over the years, we have seen that the way data is being pushed to the cloud, this is at some level going to be a challenge for the cloud to handle, and and that's what this distributed AI comes handy. And if you see on the edge side, what we are doing, we are distributing some of the brains from cloud, so also giving some brains to the gateways and also the very small brain to the nodes. And that is where you can we can have some nodes which are doing some processing, which are getting connected to the external world. Also, the important part is that security also is very important, and that ensures that you can also have next level of very high level of security. So this is what we see as the AI doing at the edge, and I'm sure this is going to be absolute mandatory in the coming time. And as I have discussed some of the issues on the low side of the slide, you will see I'm talking about the real-time processing. I'm talking about the bandwidth offloading or the data privacy, even the power consumption, because when we are talking about IoT devices, we are talking about the devices which are powered by having the less power, either by the means of the batteries, and also uh, putting the data useful data to the cloud, so that way you actually can still process some of the data and offload the processing power. So this is where we have the AI, and why we today see that this AI on the edge will make a big sense for the applications. So I would like to take you to some of the applications which you can see around. You must be working on these applications, and one of the such application market is on the computer vision. So where we can also do some the programming on the microcontrollers and microprocessors as well. So what these computer on the vision on the edge needs. So if you see today, we are talking about computer the cameras which are getting installed in different ways to take the images, to take the videos, and what you need on the cloud is that huge bandwidth on the high bandwidth is needed, as we discussed about the user interaction. So you need there will be some latency problems, dependency on the connectivity, and a lot of privacy and security concerns. So if we take it to the processing vision to the edge side, some of the benefits what we can get is that we can make the user experience a bit more better. We can make it real time so that we have less of the latencies, make it more robust and reliable. Privacy, so you can by design you can start having some of the privacy concerns handled, and also optimize your cloud usage or storage, which is today available, and of course also the energy consumption, because IoT devices are working on the optimized power consumption. If we see the processing requirements today on the computer vision applications, we can categorize them in three forms. One is low, medium, and high. On the low side, we have like some examples that you need some low resolution images. You really don't need every time the very high resolution of the images to be taken, or you want to know the position of the objects, or even the lighting condition, how it is there. So these are some of the basic requirements which can be done with the help of low computing power or processing power of the machines. On the medium side, then if you need a bit more of the frame rates of the images, or it is a wide environment where you need to take more images, so then you need a bit more of the computing power. And finally, of course, on the high end, when you really need not huge high rate of the video, or even the high resolution of the videos, which has to be taken to the cloud. So based on these different requirements, we see the requirements which can fit either on the basic on the edge side, which generally are enabled by the microcontrollers. So that is what we see, that these kind of basic requirements of the computer vision from low to medium and could fit in some of the available in the market available microcontrollers or available microprocessors. And of course, when we are talking about more of the needs of the high end of the medium or high end needs, then of course we again need some process which are dedicated doing some of the neural processing units to make sure that you are able to handle hundreds of giga operations per second, or even the trillion operations per tera operations per second. So that is how the different needs will be required. So let me talk about this segment, which is computer vision, and we are talking about AI at the edge. So we talk about the low end segment of it, especially on the IoT enabled devices. On the left side, you see IoT enabled devices actually are relying more on the battery. So it means that they have to be much more power efficient, and certainly it is not feasible to always replace the batteries in most of the cases, or at least not to replace the batteries very fast. So you may replace the batteries after a certain period of time. So in such application, there could be some application like computer vision in the voice interfaces, like you want to have some gesture recognition, some gaze detection, or even the direction of the person detection. So these are some of the areas which could be which can be interfaced with these vision computer vision. Or we talk about the segment like predictive maintenance, which like smoke detection, or even liquid is spilled over, or there could be some defect detection which you want to just through the image you want to predict uh, the the, uh, the the behavior which is not normal. Or there could be visual wake-ups availability, or even low accuracy image processing, like you have to recognize some pests, weeds, disease in the fields, so you need some image processing which needs low accuracy, even if it is recognizing some characters, or some classification of the images, different image classification. So in that time you simply need less accuracy image processing. So some of the examples of the application could be like defect detection or crop disease detection, thermal cameras, even aftermarket. We have seen. I'll show one demo, very interesting demo, where we say that we have huge installation base of the gas meters, water meters, which are emerging markets after electricity, and we see millions of the meters already available. And how we ensure that those meters could again be connected. Today we have the challenge that somebody is coming to our house and taking the readings, or you are sending it through your WhatsApp, capturing the image and sending back. How if we can really automate this market and make sure that there's a huge market which could be available, and one of the AI use case could make it possible. Similarly, gesture control. or person detection in your security surveillances, even the face expression, which can enable. So I'll show some examples of these applications. So this is the computer vision application. Second application market is which we call sound events and context awareness. So that is, again, this could be another application market. So sound-based applications, left side you will see it's not always necessary that all the complex audios are from the front end are required to really make sure that sound is get. So you can use the sound detection by having the simple audio recognition, and some of the application could be sound event classification, like home alarms, breaking some glass, or even some the noise which is heard from the machines, or even the sound of the to detect some vehicle counts, or even the different direction of mics, or wake up, or even the context awareness, like whether you are indoor, you are outdoor, whether you're inside the vehicle. So all these things are possible with the help of sound-based application. Some of the examples could be like vehicle counting, intrusion, we talked about, engine brake with some noise which is happening on your motors, audio scene classification, occupancy inside the building if noise. This audio will help there, or even in the panic situations, or even if the wake up on the based on the some sounds. So these are some of the basic application, which again is very emerging market based on these context and sound areas. The third important application markets is condition monitoring and predictive maintenance. So this is another third area which I feel very important, and this is important that how this area is also going up. So let me give you the idea about the predictive maintenance. So if you see the system which has been today, and most of the time we are it is based on the failures. When machine is going to fail, then we are putting the service request. Predictive maintenance is taking it to next level when we are talking about the conditions based on the monitoring, so that you can actually do some local processing, you can do some analytics on it to really predict that you are actually your machine is optimally available, and it is available for at the right time. You can actually start the maintenance of the machines. So that means that this certainly is going to be maximizing your production output, and also not to really putting every machine to its complete limit before it really starts failing. So so machine does not in that case machine will not really go to failures, and certainly this also means that there will be less cost on the repairs instead of the preventive maintenance. It's more to really go for the predictive maintenance. That's what we see today, and this is one of the key subjects we have seen in the smart industries. This being very much talked about and also used in those industries. So, but you see, in these kind of application, the AI would make sense when we are actually talking about distributed AI from edge to cloud. So, so we have to see these cases which could be simply edge connected, or when you need a real balance between the edge gateways and cloud. So in this particular machine, because we on the edge side we have the constraints of the memory, constraints of the capabilities. So we will be doing some of the very machine level decisions can be taken. So we call them micro level decisions. So on the edge side, you can do these the decisions on the microcontrollers. So let's say you are sensing the data, you are also processing some data from smart sensors. So this is real time. You are processing some data. That processed data can be sensed, given to the gateways, and that means that your edge doesn't have to be on all the time. So when it is needed, you can push that data at the required time to the gateways. On the gateway side, again, it could be building level decision. So it means that this data which has come to it, gateways can take decision whether this data which has been provided by end is sufficient, the decisions are sufficient, or you need some more data to be collected from the sensor data from edge, and then do the processing. So AI works very well when it is heterogeneous system which has some decisions and also some raw data. So this will really make good sense, and we can call them meso decisions which can be taken at gateways. And third could be the cloud level decisions when we are talking about the factory level or city level decisions, which could be fleet monitoring, or at the macro level decisions, whether the decisions which are taken at gateways and endpoints need much more evaluation. It needs much more inputs coming from different factories and then collected to make more sense. And I'm talking about this picture, which is not a single machine. It is talking about a huge system which can have multiple of your edge nodes, multiple of gateways, and then processing on the bigger clouds. So that is what we really can see, a very good example of the distributed AI from edge to cloud. Some of the use cases could be new equipment. So of course, if you are deploying the new equipment with the predictive maintenance application, so its integration is possible with you need some power supplies, you need some you can also utilize the existing sensors if it is already put in the equipment to utilize them. Or it could be very good for the field maintenance retrofit if it is battery powered, because in that case you really, it's a very simple to put a installation on the machines, existing machines, on the predictive maintenance. So the application areas could be industrial, manufacturing and process automation, power and energy, industrial equipment conditioning, monitoring, automotive and transportation in vehicles or in the railways, infrastructure. So these are the other very good field of it. And of course, the home appliance, it could be the lighting, the washing machines, a lot of air conditioning application, which could also be used for this maintenance. So just imagine what the use case of your washing machine, and today we are calling the vendors when we really feel some fault, or otherwise they are coming regularly and really putting a huge budget on us in name of AMC. So how if I can optimize this through the predictive maintenance and make sure that my machine really needs it can really make sure itself tell me that when I really need some repair, when I really need some maintenance to be done myself, so that we really can optimize the cost well. So some of these application could be motor vibration, as we talked about, bearings losses, some crankshaft, pipe flow, temperature, and this is just the to name few. There could be a lot of more of such use cases. So this is what I talked about, three major the application segments we see as a ST. We see a huge demand, we see huge traction on these the segments. Of course, there are multiple more segments, but for the sake of time and ease, I just put three of these major segments. And I would like to take your inputs based on the after hearing this, and I'm sure you would be working in some of these areas, or you intend to work on some of these areas of whether I'm talking about contextual audio, computer vision, or if it is condition monitoring and predictive maintenance. So this time, not to be monotonous, I'll just put a pause. I'll put a polls open, and in this poll, I would like to understand from these three major market segments, which I have explained, what you feel is your field of interest, or maybe this is one field which, as an audience, I would like to understand, which is where we see that our future generation or the existing developers are going to work. This could be three. All the three are important, but just to understand your field of interest and where you want to see more and more progress from the companies like us, which can give you more solutions.
Attendees will give 5 seconds more and then we'll share the results. Please cast in your votes. Okay, I am ending the poll now and sharing the results on your screens.
Okay. So thank you very much. So what I see today, based on the interest, yes, I believe predictive maintenance and condition monitoring is certainly one of the big field. And let me tell you, one of the study tells that around us, the major field, in fact, even sometime we do this study that 55% of the industry power is consumed by the motors. So motor is a huge source of the work or the research. And of course, also on these motors, how we can make sure that these mechanisms, these motors are fail safe and they really are there. So thank you. So I see this one of the major interest on this predictive maintenance and condition monitoring, and also by the audience. Second, the most sought and looked forward domain is on the computer vision. I agree, because there has been numerous application around it which is going around. And of course on the sound and context, as of now we see this majorly on the sounds. We have certainly on the cloud side we have today lot of the applications, like we are talking about the Alexa, Siri, Google, Bixby from Samsung. So these all are the assistants which are on the audio. But yes, still there are a lot of applications which can also be pushed to the edge in coming time. So thank you very much. I just end this poll. Okay, fine. So we talked about these all things. Let me now talk about how these neural networks. Now we talked these application, we talked about the concepts, and now I'm going to talk about how these neural networks can really work on these small tiny MCUs, the process which I was putting across to you, that these edge, how really you can make sure that these edges are IoT on the this AI on the edge can easily be used by as a developer. So there has been a lot of tools, simplified tools available. So generally what you need to do in these, what are the steps when we are talking about the neural networks. So there are primarily 5 major steps which are there on this model. To start with, this is capturing data. So as we saw, digital data set is the very important part in any of the AI. It's to learn by machines itself. So capturing data is the major thing. So one of the major steps is that how you have to capture data. It could be coming from your sensors. It could be coming from your different audio sensors, or even from the motion sensors. It could be coming from your microphone. So there are a lot of ways by which you can capture the data. The second step is that after capturing data, you have to clean the data. You have to label the data, and based on this, you have to build the neural network topology. So that is called cleaning and labeling the data. So that is the second step. And third, once you have cleaned the data, you have labeled the data. The third step is you are now going to train the neural network model. So this is the third step when you are going to train this model. And fourth step is that when actually you are this train model, because this train model could be having a model which could be very heavy on the memory requirement. And you, if you have to put on the edge any of the application on the edge, you also have to think about the not only the computation, but also the price performance, the way your that particular subject, your product has to have the right trade-off between the performance and the cost. So this means that you also have to find a good mix of those trained models and optimize them in the right frame of the microcontrollers. So this is the fourth step when you are converting those neural networks and optimizing this code from this model to fit inside the tiny microcontrollers or microprocessors. So that is the step number 4. And finally, the last step is when we are processing and analyzing this new data using the trained neural network. So this is finally when you are actually analyzing and processing it at the edge. So 5 steps. Let me take you through these steps. So first 2 steps I talked about when we are talking about collecting data, architecting this data for a neural network topology. So in this case, there are a lot of partners available. You will see there has been the companies even like ST who has been working on a lot of hardware and software tools which is enabling those capturing that data. And then of course there has been a lot of, if you surf through, you will see already labeled data. There is tremendous amount of data which already has been labeled, but of course you also can customize and capture new data and label it further. So to give you some perspective and examples how these hardware look like. So just to give you example, this is called one sensor tile. So what sensor tile means, this device. So what this hardware should have primarily, you need one controller. So this is one controller on this. You need a lot of sensors. You see this tiny hardware has got microphones. This has got sensors, accelerometers, gyroscope, magnetometer. So a lot of different sensors available through which you can capture the data. And then it is taking it, even the for altitude, pressure and all, you see the barometers is also part of it. And then it can be taken to the for processing through the connectivity like Bluetooth low energy. So this is one hardware which is available, and this tiny hardware is available on this sensor tile. Of course, we also have come up with new version which is called sensor tile.box, which is even more powerful than this older one. The other example of the this hardware could be like these kind of IoT node. So what IoT node means, that then you can also directly connect it to the cloud through the Wi-Fi. So these hardware can directly be capture the data and also connect to the cloud for doing some kind of analysis if you want. And of course, this also has got a lot of other technologies, connectivity technologies like sub-gigahertz, NFC. So you can connect a lot of sensors from the field, and they connect to these hardware and accordingly capture the data. So this is just to give you some ideas that what kind of hardware is possible when we are talking about capturing any data. So this again is available in one of the IoT node is one of the hardware available for us. So these are the two steps which I talked about, and then there are three more steps which is like training the neural models. The third step is, again, you see today in the thanks to the open communities, and we see a massive research going on these models. And for today's the people who are entering into this domain of AI or already working on this domain, you will find this there are a lot of tools available. So we have some of the quite popular tools like Caffe, Kairos, TensorFlow Lite, and many more. So these are some of the key neural network models. In fact, if you go to those sites, you already will get a lot of pre-trained models available. So that you don't have to all the time. There are a lot of models which already are available. But of course, you also can create your own data set and then train again these models. So this is the third step, which you can use any of these tools to train the model and then create one data set which will be coming out of this model. This data will then be taken by the fourth step when I was talking about the converting this. And one of the tool which also ST has come up, to give you example, is called STM32 or Cube.ai. So this is the tool when you are, and there are several more tools in the market you will find. But we have been working since few years to really find a good tool which can actually make developers' life quite easy. And this tool really is one of the handy tools. So what it does, it can convert these the data which is coming from the trained model, and this will optimize based on the microcontrollers, and then finally you can program the controllers and then run at the edge. So in the final step, then that programmed microcontrollers can be put as an app, and then you can analyze and process the data on it. So these are the steps. To give you a bit detail on this, a bit detailed slide, but I'll not go very deep inside this, but give you two context of it. For example, TensorFlow Lite is one of the model available. This neural network model, what you do, you give your pre-trained model, and from this pre-trained models, there are some files which are converters available, and from this converter further it is programming it. So idea is that in this case you are not directly optimizing it, so this buffer can be used in different process. So this model is interpreted and executed by the pre-built operations. So there are some TensorFlow Lite available. And then if you are looking for, instead of flexibility, a bit more optimized, which can actually fit quite tightly fit inside your code, then this STM32Cube.ai is the other one. So what you are going to do, same TensorFlow from pre-trained model, you put that which is coming from this model, and you are converting it, and then this model is directly put inside this Cube.ai, and from this Cube AI, the files which are library files which are generated, can be programmed for this. They can be compiled and linked together to run inside the microcontrollers. So these are the two strategies which can be used by any of the developers. So also to give you a sense, sometimes it's on the edge side also you can do more intelligence. So how you can do that? Even today the sensors are coming and getting more intelligent. So idea for this is to really make sure that the edge, how you actually can take more and more power and processing inside the edge. So we also have some sensors which are getting even more smarter. So that means that these sensor itself has got machine learning algorithm. So whenever the sensor is giving some data, it is not giving you raw data. You also can train it. You can put some machine learning algorithm to make sure that the data which is coming out of it is of this relevant use, and this can further be processed inside the microcontroller. So this becomes a first level and second level of the AI processing within the edge itself. So like you can see, you can take the raw data, you can take even some decision data which is taken from this, and then further process it, and together, even if needed, you can reconfigure and keep on interchanging the sensors and data together. So that's one more example that how you can further optimize the performance and power consumptions within the edge side. One more example is on the vision. So if you go to this side, this is available on GitHub, the OpenMV So this is running on the MicroPython over the some controllers. STM32 is one of the controllers. So OpenMV platform. So what you can do easily that you can configure machine vision in the real time over the USB using the Python. So if some of you developers already using the Python, try this. So you can easily able to do and convert and run and validate these neural networks together. So that's again one of the pretty simple way forward to experiment with these edges. So as a steps to summarize these steps, as I talked about the 5 major steps. So in the third step, which is once I say you capture the data, you have neural networks which already are now you have to design them using any of the model. So as I talked about Keras or TensorFlow or Caffe and other models, and it's always a good practice to also know that what is your end application, what is your embedded application, what are the constraints of that application, so that accordingly you have the choice to select the right tool when you are actually designing a neural network. The second step is then you are optimizing this as we talked about this tool, which is Cube.ai. So you are optimizing the execution through this tool, and it is much beyond the optimization. In fact, this tool also is able to understand that what kind of controllers on the hardware side you have put. So you can actually also leverage the hardware capabilities of that controllers. Let's say, for example, some controllers also come up with built-in DSP capabilities. So in that case, this tool will make sure that some of the processing power of the can also be put on the DSP functionality. So just to make sure that this is really optimized and executed well. Then it goes to the next stage when you have to validate the optimization, because once you have put the optimization, it is not necessary that in first time only you get an optimized code. Possibilities that you have to do a lot of 2 or 3 or more time of the iteration on the optimization. So this third step is iterative. So means that in the tool gives you capabilities that you can put how much level of optimization you want, how you can validate it, and redo step 2 and step 3 together. And finally, when you are ready with this optimized code, with you can put in the hardware. We have some ready-made hardware, and along with software which is called function packs. But then you can reprogram this tool and create your own function pack. So these are the some key steps which can be done as a to simplify as a developer how this this can be done. So now let me tell you that almost all the major companies which are into semiconductors, which are working on the edge side, so they have a variety of microcontrollers available. You can go through. You will find various, or already you would be working on some of the MCUs. ST has also got one of the key range of the microcontrollers in the 32-bit domain. So in fact, in ARM Cortex family, ST has one of the leading edge controllers available, and this is a huge set of the controllers available from more than 1,000 part numbers which are there. And if you see, they are available in the wireless categories, so that you directly integrate all the controllers and the wireless domains. You have the, if you want on the edge, very ultra low power consumption patterns, those controllers are available. You want some good performance to be done by the controllers, then they are available. If you want even the very high performance computation to be done, going in hundreds of megahertz, like these controllers can go up to near to 500 megahertz, or even they are available in dual core to distribute your balance your the computation power. Or even if you want some Linux based operating system, or going up to 800 till 800 megahertz, 650 was first one, now up to 800 megahertz. So we have the process which are available on this. So and such a variety of it. We have machine learning ecosystem for the low end controllers as well, which has been the first one generation and second generation, but low end side, and also on the high end side controllers which are compatible with this ecosystem which I was talking about, the Cube.ai, and they are compatible with the deep learning algorithm as well. So they are available today. Uh, uh, Generally, when you see this tool, the tool will be able to list all the controllers which can be made usable for any of your AI application. So let me now finally talk about the some application demonstration. So I think that will give you some more view that how these applications which I was talking since on these slides, how they are going to be available, and how you can connect them with your existing application. So one of the application, some of the possibility, in fact, before that, is that I was talking about low, medium, or high. So on the low side, there are a lot of possibilities. If you are talking about computer vision, image based processing, so you can put on the still objects, you can put on the human body detection or face recognition, even computer vision on the video based. So if you are putting on the gesture detection, you want to put some people counting on attendance systems kind of thing, or you have the use cases which could be combined with the sensors, like anomaly detection we talked about, object detection on the different conditions. So there could be a lot of use cases which are possible with these kind of controllers. Then going forward, then you need a bit more brain, because why so? Because you maybe you need even more real time user experience. You want more intelligence to build up inside your edge. So in that case, you need some MCU which can also have some hardware engines to accelerate these neural networks. So in that case, some of the examples could be image segmentation, or your denoising, some super resolution denoising, or even the detection on the warehouse routing, or even talking to your appliance on the natural language. So conversational with in the local natural language. So there could be a lot of such application which is possible when we are talking about medium and some possibilities of edge. Or certainly then on the high side, as we can take some examples, which is possible on the drone piloting, or even the some large scale of the monitoring, or some speech separation on the audio and visual. So these are some of the more examples which are possible with medium and high end. So so let me take you through one of the demonstration, which is aftermarket wireless digit reader on the Metri. So what is the use case? Let me tell you the use case. So a use case for is that we have the huge installed base of the water meters, gas meters today in the market. They are almost millions of the meters which are installed in your house, in my house. And idea is that I want that how these meters can be automated. How the person who comes for the reading, or if I still have to put, especially for me, I have to put every time my put the image and then WhatsApp to my vendor for the gas meters. So how we can make it automatic, so that every time your bill is automated and you really don't have to worry about it. So in this use case, what we have done, we have taken a small low cost camera, SPI based camera, simple camera. So idea is to really boost the ROI by reducing these visits, and then so that we can take the data from this camera and then send it across on the long range. It could be used for electrical or gas or water meter use cases. And of course, again, the idea is that the reader really doesn't have to again do a lot of battery replacement every time. So you need some expectancy of the battery life properly. So what we have done, we have one device which is called WL55. It's a LoRa-enabled Cortex-M controller. In this one, it can capture the data. It can then send the data over the LoRaWAN network. It's a long range radio, so that you can actually take your data in kilometers. So if from my home, I actually can send data to some kilometers just by using this device. So this was the demo. What we have done, we have 4 frames per second. We have this input coming from this camera. We could get up to 95% of the accuracy. Inference time is 84 milliseconds to interpret per digit. And the flash, which is used for this doing all this AI, takes just 16 kilobyte of flash and RAM of 8 kilobyte. Of course, then you need to integrate the stack, which is especially for taking your data from your node to the outside. So that is LoRaWAN stack, which takes around 65 kilobyte of the flash. But you see, AI just takes 10 kilobyte of the flash needs for this caption. So to do this, what I'll do, I'll put a small video on this. This can you can see a live example that how it is possible. So in this video, you see that we have mounted one small this camera. This is facing the water meter. This water meter, and in water meter there are these digits. So let me put it on. So what we have done on this water digits, there has been the fan. We have put one small fan. So what this fan does, that this is able to rotate the readings inside this. On the front, you can see the captured image coming from camera, which is taken from the water meter. And on the top, this is now a neural network, which is capturing the image from it and then showing this image on the screen. So you can see this whenever it is rotating, and the same image is being captured and shown on the screen. Even this is trained to see the in between reading. So it means that if it is in between, even then it is able to capture and show you that it is 0.5. So you can see 49.5. So this way, this is a small demonstration to show you that how with very basic setup, with very basic minimal hardware, you can make sure and you can start putting such AI in your you can put this AI in the real application. And here there is no cloud connected. It is just that you are capturing image, capturing it, and now this sense what the actual reading you can put in the on your the SD card, which can be inside this tool, or whenever per day or per month you can send this data back to the cloud or the to the vendor, so that they can give you the readings. So this is one of the use case demonstration which we have done. Similar, there are more use cases. Other use case which we have taken is the facial expression. So what facial expression is the use case that you want to build an interactive experience with your toys. Again, toys is something which is a very important part of our kids, and if those toys is make it interactive with your kid. So to show him that okay, fine, you are doing different faces and your toy is interacting with the kid in the same way. So this becomes really good experience for the user experience for the this industry. Or you are optimizing the advertising experience based on the emotional response. You are entering one mall or somewhere, and you based on your expression you are seeing that you are liking one particular item. So you start seeing some good more of such items in from the advertising side. Or even the you just come in front of one vending machine in my airport, and then I'm just based on the different drinks available, and probably based on my expression it can suggest me the right drink which is available inside this vending machine. So these are some just to give you some use cases which is possible when we are talking about the facial expression recognition. And this is real time, so you are actually real time you are interacting with the user. So in this demonstration, again, we have taken one STM32 device, which is around 400 megahertz. This is working on this case. And then this machine is it's a dual core, so it is able to balance both the this demo. And then we did different 7 expressions: angry, disgusted, scared, happy, neutral, sad, surprised. So based on those expressions, it can actually work and give you the response. So again, this is one demonstration. I'll not be showing demos to all, but you can imagine that this is possible with this microcontrollers and optimizing the code. Third example I'll be putting is the image classification. So this is again a processor. That processor is we have STM32 MP1, which is the range of the process running at 800 megahertz. So what it does that it can actually classify the images among different 1,000 different categories. So you can classify those images. We have used the TensorFlow Lite here on this STM32 MP1. The use case is that you can classify the objects out of the catalog of 1,000 objects. You can classify which objects are there. And classification is done in real time with, so that you actually, the moment you capture the image, you quickly tell the user that this is the image, this is the object. And again, this simply needs a very low resolution camera. You don't need a very high resolution here. Imagine some of the use cases like in your refrigerator, there automatic detection of the low supply. So you are just putting a camera. This is surfing your refrigerator, and the moment some, especially for commercial, I'm just talking about the refrigeration or freezer, which are used in restaurants, which are used in commercial activities, which are a lot of inventory is available there. And the moment you are putting off the inventories, and then it is automatically able to detect the low supplies and quickly reload or reorder these objects. Or even think about the use case of microwave. The moment this you put a food, let's say I put a chicken inside it, and it knows that it is a chicken, and it is automatically able to take a cycle that how much time I need to cook this food. Or if it is a if it is a simple vegetable, so he knows that it is a vegetable particular object, and it will automatically retrain its cycle to make sure that food is properly placed and properly cooked. So all these examples are possible with the help of such image classification, which can do. Again, in this demonstration, what we have done, we have simple hardware. You capture quick image, and then you quickly able to know that which is that image. This is again used with the help of TensorFlow Lite running on the dual core. And this is, as I said, a MobileNet version 1, which can capture 1,000 classes here available. So this is the third, the example set, which is you can correlate with the demonstration. Or we have some demonstration which are on the face identification. So again, you can build up a lot of customization, lot of experience based on recognizing the face. So it means that you can customize the experience for the appliances, for the toys, same way for the smart controls. One of the use case I really like this is like vending machine in Europe and all. This coffee machine is very popular, and we see, in fact, when we generally go there, we don't know what to do with this. So actually, we have to play with it and to get it. But this can be automated, based on if you're fed these machines, and this knows that what is your how much coffee strength you want, or in the vending machines, what is the mixture of your milk and mixture of the tea, and it automatically blends that tea and provides that particular flavor to you. So these are very simple immediate use cases which are possible with the help of at very low cost. So again, this needs low resolution cameras, and this can quickly do this. Of course, other is like doorbells, personalization based on the security and doorbells. So you can also recognize the face and accordingly take the action. So this again needs face recognition. Like we have done up to 500 faces, and of course this is just going on. So, but there is a lot of things which can be done at all. So this demonstration also we are preparing to quickly enable the edge application and how it is possible that in different use cases, enabling those use cases with help of it. And one more finally on the use case there's this use case I tell an anomaly detection using the vibration. So as I was talking about the predictive maintenance and condition monitoring, which is really one of the key subject. And in fact, in the poll, I've seen that most of the users also are interested to know about this, how this predictive maintenance all these work. So in our demonstration, we have we can detect the anomaly in the industrial equipment by monitoring it. In fact, we have one partner which is called Cartesium. This demonstration is coming from them. So what they have done, they have launched one library, the tool which is called Nano Edge AI. So the idea of Nano Edge AI is that in this case, uh, it is this library is automatically also learn it. So you don't have to learn it on the fly. It can learn. This library can learn the good cases and then able to detect the anomaly out of it. So some of the use cases, let me highlight. So in the condition monitoring systems for industrial equipment, like rotating parts for motors, fans, pumps, bearings, spindles, you can detect the anomalies on the complex systems based on some. As of now, in this hardware, there's one accelerometer sensors, but then you can put more and more sensors here to make it more precise and even make it more useful for your based on your application. So in this case, the good part is that you don't need to train anything. No training of the abnormal state is required. You can do on the fly this anomaly detection in the real time. So again, real-time detection on the industry farms or on the misalignments and the shocks. So this demo is based on one of the device which is L5, but this is also done on 3 or 4 different tools and different process, so that it can actually be used in L family is for very ultra low power, but then we also have done this for other families, so that if somebody wants more of processing power to do more activities, so that can also be done. So this is function pack is available. So we this has all the, like in this demonstration you will see this has got the display capabilities. It can be controlled using some USB and some local controls. This is called Nano Edge AI Studio. This is coming from Cartesium, and this can generate the machine learning library, which can learn itself and then also put the inference out of it, running on the controllers. So you can learn. You have to actually learn this in the normal phase, and then you can detect the anomalies. So I think this is good example, and I have one live, not live, but one video which is available on this. So this I would like to play this video to give you idea about this tool and this library and how it is working. So let me play this video. Yeah. So video you see this is running. So in this case, starting, this is the virgin machine. So you have to run it first. And after running it, you start putting this button is now started learning the model. So you can learn at different speeds. It can be, you can make it various speeds. You can make it very fast first, so that you know that my machine can run up to this level. My machine can go to the slower speeds. So based on the different learning techniques which you have put inside the machine, and then now it is running again. So you can see it is normal condition because you have trained it for that speed. The moment it is beyond a particular segment, uh, very low, or even if it is stopping, so you can see that is considered as the anomaly because you have trained it not even for a stop. So it's up to you that how you are going to train the model. You can see even it can detect the vibrations. Let's say you are putting some noise on the table. It is vibrating. Your machine is vibrating. There is some noise which is coming from your machine. This can also be detected as the anomaly if there is some slight vibration on the machine. So anomaly is there. So what you can also do now, what we have done, we have just added one imbalance. So this, the moment you put some imbalance, you can see this is now imbalanced. And now if you detect immediately, it will detect the anomaly, because you know that this is not running at the right behavior. And so all these conditions, which can be, of course, sometimes we have to see slow speed and high speed, how they are going to be used. But in most of the time, it is able to recognize the anomalies from the right condition, or the which is the proper condition of the motor. So this was one demonstration which I thought gives you some ideas that how monitor prediction can be done, and this is all is real time. So you can see that whatever you are doing, you are just learning the machine. At the same time, quickly you are able to, the moment it is detecting the failure, quickly it is able to give you the indication that this is anomaly is found, and immediately you can take the action to stop the motor, to put it for service, or you alert on the backside to make sure that your service engineer is alerted on the industries, and immediately he's attending the machine. So all these things are possible when we are talking about the machine. Sorry, I'll just go back. Okay, so this Cube AI is available. So if somebody is interested to learn more, you can go to this website to learn more about these all 5 steps what I was talking about. Fine. So I think almost I'm done. Let me take you for 10 minutes more on the slides, which is talking about the future evolution on this, what we see today, and how we find that this future evolution of the AI is happening. Of course, many of you you would know the evolution which is happening around, and this evolution is certainly one of the key element of our lives. We are seeing it regularly being used, and more and more use case examples daily. We see the things, and our lives are getting much better with the evolution of these AI techniques. So if you see these evolution, we know some there are 6 to 7 stages of this intelligence, and you can say the phase wise there could be 3 phases. One is the narrow intelligence, that is what we generally are today. So in this narrow intelligence, we are talking about the machines which are doing a specific task. We are learning them for to